So I was enjoying my morning coffee this morning, and a thought came to me. Unfun mapping seems to be a problem for a lot of people, and I don't think that they know how to efficiently set up roll maps and prepare their atlas to have a good time. So in this episode of Morning Coffee Chats with Arrow, we're going to talk about mapping, how to roll your maps, how to do it efficiently, how to roll your tablets, and how to set up your atlas with as little effort as possible for maximum gains. Let's get into it. So let's talk about mapping. When you get to the endgame, you have this glorious atlas of mountains and rivers and valleys full of these little dots that you get to explore. But how do you make the most amount of money in the shortest period of time and have the most fun at the same time? The answer is preparing. You want to prepare your maps. You want to roll them effectively and efficiently. You want to prepare tablets. Tablets are very cheap. They are very accessible, and there's no excuse to not be using them just about any time you run a map. They are not as complicated as they look, and we'll get into that later in the video, so stick around. Lastly, you have to figure out how you want to approach your atlas. Because everyone's atlas is different, I can't tell you exactly which maps that you want to do and in which order, but I'm going to attempt to show you how to have the best time with the least amount of prep and make the most money. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump in game and we're going to talk about map rolling. Let's go. So the first thing that you have to do before you can start running maps is prepare your maps. I have a huge tab here of random tier 15 maps that have dropped for me. I recommend in the endgame doing at least tier 14 maps, and I wouldn't apply this strategy to anything less than, say, tier 13 maps. I have 50 tier 15 maps in this tab of various rarities. We've got normal maps, we've got rare maps, we've got magic maps, some are ID'd, some are not. And I'm going to show you my quick 9-step process. It sounds like a lot, but it's very fast to get these maps ready to go. So you grab a bunch of currency that you're going to need. You're going to need wisdom scrolls. You're going to need augmentations, you're going to need alks, you're going to need regals, and all of these are very, very cheap. The last thing you're going to need is a pile of exalted orbs. Now, this seems like a bad idea, but I am going to throw a lot of these exalted orbs onto these maps, and you're going to see why. So the first thing that we need to do is identify all of our maps. And the cool thing about PoE 2 is it shows you, when you click on a currency orb, which things can be affected by it. So I right-click a scroll of wisdom here, and all of the maps that can be affected by it show up. So you no longer have to type regexes down here to roll your maps. It makes it way faster, way easier, less clunky. So the first thing, you wisdom scroll. The second thing you do is you click the alk, and then you alk all of the white maps. Very quick. We're already 2 steps in. The next thing you want to do is augment. Now we're going to regal all the maps that show up, and this is going to create all rare maps. Everything here is going to have at least 3 mods, and they're all going to be rare. So if you type rare in here, you'll see they're all rare maps. The goal here being, we want to get these all to a workable state where we can search. So step 5 is searching. What maps can't you do? I don't run Burning Ground maps. I simply don't run Burning Ground maps. I absolutely hate them. I think this is an incredibly toxic mod that shows up way too often, and it should be removed from the game or incredibly nerfed. There's nothing fun about the floor is lava, so I just pull those right out. Ailment threshold maps are also very annoying for me, and just for my own pleasure, I'm going to remove these as well. You do not have to take out all maps that are a little bit annoying, but for me, considering I only have 2 mods that I don't like to run, I don't find it too big of a deal. We're going to put these all aside, and we'll come back to them later. You're now going to take your exalts and exalt every map to 6 mods. I don't use any exalts on these maps on the side. We'll get back to that later. Something really important to note about spending exalts on your maps is that you will drop those exalts in the map and more if you use the exalts. It sounds scary to spend 100 exalts on 50 maps, but the reality is it's a third of a divine. You are absolutely going to make that back and way, way more. Use exalts on your maps. We've now turned all of these into 6 mod maps. So what I do again is I then search again for the maps that I don't like. I pull them out. And again, you don't have to do this step for maps that you just don't like if you want to, if you don't want to remove too many maps. The truth is I have way too many tier 15s, so I can be more picky. So we have all of these 6 mod maps here that are ready for the next step, which is a vol orb that I forgot. So again, you right click, it shows all the maps that haven't been volled yet, and we just vol them all. Another thing you could do is you can vol all of these maps, because it has the possibility of removing the mod that you really don't like. So this one actually got saved. This map has ailment threshold now. You can do another search to make sure that you didn't vol any maps into the bad mods. I will likely still run some of these maps. I will take the tier 16s. I'll definitely run those. And I will also take all of these maps and put them into what I call my tower pile. I use these for the tower maps because they're shorter, they're more linear, they're easier. I don't mind running the Omen threshold on those maps. And to be honest, I probably should just be running them anyway, now that my build has enough damage. So we pull out all of our tier 16s. I run these maps exclusively on maps that have corruption, irradiation, and a boss. So I will always be doing tier 18 bosses, and I make enough of these that I don't have enough tier 16s for them. So always save your tier 16s for those maps if your build can run them. One of the things you can do is you can go through your maps and look and see which ones have really high waystone drop chance and save those for citadels, because waystone drops chance in citadels means you're going to get more fragments. It is most of the money that comes from a citadel, so you should always run very, very high waystone drop chance. I prefer 600 plus if I can get it. I don't always have 600 plus maps. Here's 585. 560, so I would go ahead and pull those out and save them for citadels. But here we've prepared around 40 maps. Now, if I wasn't making a video out of this, it would have taken much less time, but that was very, very quick. Now that we've prepared our maps, let's talk about tablets. Tablets are very, very cheap. Some of them can be pretty expensive, but for the most part, just using some kind of tablet on your map is always going to be worth it. You're going to end up having an infinite amount of tablets that you couldn't possibly use them all. You've vastly oversustained. So you can even run your worst tablets on some of your worst maps just to add things to the area. Now, if you want to juice an area specifically, we will get to the way to do that. But first, let's talk about just rolling our tablets. In order to do that, you need wisdom scrolls, you need transmutes, and you need augmentation orbs. You cannot make a rare tablet. You can only get them as drops. So a lot of these have already been rolled, but I have a bunch in here that are unidentified or white items. Please keep in mind, you can sell white tablets. Some tablets sell for a lot. I don't know if I have any here. I don't. I sold them all. Ritual tablets are selling for a ton right now, so I'm not personally running them. Whenever I drop one, I sell it. But for the rest of these tablets, you can either try to sell them white if you want, or you can just roll them all like I do. So in order to do that, we click our wisdom scroll. Go ahead and click on all of the maps that are currently unidentified. Excuse me, the tablets that are unidentified. Then you click your transmute and it'll show you all of the modded. It'll show you all the waystones with no modifiers. And then you click your augmentation orb and you do the same thing. And you turn them all into 2 mod blue items. This makes them very easy to search. And I will show you some tips and tricks on how to properly search for the tablets that you want. So of course, if you want boss tablets, you just type in Overseer. This is super straightforward. Once you've decided on a tablet that you want to search for, you can then add other things. Like, let's say you want to stack up quantity of items dropped from map bosses. You can type in Overseer, hit space, and then put quantity in. And this will bring up anything that says quantity in the text. So quantity of items or quantity of items dropped by map bosses. You can add more language here to be more specific. But if I wanted to run bosses where I juice them up with a lot of quantity, boom, that's how you do it. So we'll get back to tablets in a minute, but now let's go talk about the Atlas and how we decide where to put these tablets. I'm going to use this area as an example because it's one that I'm playing in right now that has a lot of really good maps in it. When you're choosing an area, you want to find a few things. You want a lot of towers that are close together. You want the towers to be easy to get to from one another without having to use too many of the good maps. And when I say good map, I mean something that has, say, 3 things on it, 3 tiles. And you want to be in an area that has a lot of tiles already existing, such as corruption, which you cannot add yourself, bosses, which are a little bit harder to add, or tiles that you care about. If you want to run something like breach, you find an area that's got a lot of breach. The idea here is that you want to stack as many useful tablets over the maps as you can in order to juice the maps up as much as possible. Keep in mind that even if you put a tablet in that says it can only affect 7 maps and it puts a breach on 7 maps around this tower here, that doesn't mean that only those 7 maps are affected by the tablet. It means they only are going to add a breach to those zones. If there's already another breach in the area, it's going to get all the effects of the tablet's breach effects. And if the tablet has generic effects on it, such as increased quantity of items dropped in your map, then that's going to apply to every single map in this huge zone here. So I have a ton of towers that are affecting this area. You can see the overlaps are crazy, and the more they overlap, the more benefit you get. So let's look at this map right here. It's a crypt. It's got 2 things on it, which is not too many.
There are 4 things there. So this one has a real risk of dying.
However, it also has a ton of really strong mods that have been added by all the towers that overlap on it. It's got 26% increased rare monsters. It's got rarity of items dropped by map bosses, a bunch of effects added to the breach, It's got an additional strong box, and it's also got a 105% increased quantity of items found in this area. That is a huge amount of extra quantity, and it's how I've been dropping a lot of divine orbs lately, by adding quantity to all my tablets, and therefore to all of my maps. So what I did in this particular area is I went in and I grabbed tablets that had quantity of items. So what I did was I searched quantity of items, and then I closed parentheses, and that will show you anything that has that exact phrase. So this mod, 11% quant of items found in your maps. You can overlap a number of these and just juice up the quant. These are very, very easy to hit. As you see, I have a ton of them. They don't all have to be perfect, but just running quantity on your zones is going to drop you a ton more exalted orbs. It's going to pay for all the exalts you used on your maps at least, and give you better chances at things like divine orbs. More uniques are going to drop. Quantity is incredibly powerful because it is so rare in the endgame of PoE 2. So when you were juicing your maps and you were trying to decide what tablets to use, just make sure that the tablets work together. For example, a very powerful mod that I used when I was doing some expedition is area of effect of the radius of the explosions. So it basically gives you bigger circles to cover more area of the expedition. And what I was finding was I was able to hit most of the expedition when I overlapped a few of those, compared to being able to hit maybe 60 or 70% of it. That's a huge amount more loot from expeditions just for a few prefixes on tablets. So again, something like quantity, 20% increased quantity of items found in your maps. You overlap a few of these, you're going to be dropping a lot more stuff. I highly, highly recommend that once you are in the end game and you are doing this, that you take all of the precursor tablet effect that shows up on the Atlas tree up here. Double effect is crazy. It's going to end up giving you a ton of whatever you're going after. And then there's just a bunch of increased effect nodes that are travel nodes. On top of that, you have things like increased effect of explicit modifiers on your waystones for each tower affecting the area. Some of the maps that I'm doing right now are affected by 4, 5, 6 towers. So that is multiplicative and can result in a lot more loot. So those are my coffee thoughts this morning. Thank you for joining me. Let me know if there's anything I missed that's really important down in the comments below. If you want to support me, you can like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. But more importantly, you can stop by my Twitch. twitch.tv/AER0___. I'm live every single day, and I'm going live right after this video. So thank you so much for watching. And as always, take care.